I will start by sharing the agenda for the meeting very quickly. There. We have like about 90 minutes to go, and during that meeting, during that time, we would like you to would like to discuss the definition of positive energy buildings, what they should be, how they should be defined, what are the boundaries, what are the important aspects to consider in at in those buildings. I'm actually now taking the role of Andreas Turk in behalf of the Access project. I'm the technical coordinator of the Access project, Mia Alajusala from VTT, Finland. And I hope that our coordinator will soon join us. And then we will start with the presentation of the 3 projects very briefly to know. So the background is that we have been discussing the definition with between these 3 projects, and the presentations should give a background why we are interested in this definition in these 3 projects. And then Christian Pozza from Europe will present what we have been concluded as a common points and what are the discussion points that we think that should be further discussed. Then we will hear from Dimitrios Athanasiou, the Commission's position to these positive energy buildings and how they should be defined and where they are standing with that now. And then after that, we would like to start a discussion, really. We are sharing these into different items, and we will chair these discussions, but we would really want to hear your opinions, and there will be some polls also that we ask you to participate in. And then we will wrap up afterwards from that. Okay, then we could just start with the presentations, but we could, as Andreas still is not here, I would suggest that then Roberto would maybe then start with the presentations of the project presentations. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mia. I guess you can see my screen. A very short presentation on Cultural E project. As the name says, the project aims to define solutions and methodologies for positive energy buildings, also considering the cultural context. Our idea is that, we have to define the solutions considering, of course, the climate conditions and the context around the place where the building will be built, but also the social condition, the cultural attitude and habits of the people in the specific place has to be taken into account. So in our objective, we started with the definition of cultural peculiarities impacting building energy balance. So the attitude in using natural ventilation or in, let's say, regulate in a certain way air conditioning or heating systems and things like that. And then we define a framework for the evaluation of the performance of the building. We are working on the technology development, developing some key technologies, and putting together these technologies in solution sets. So we are in the phase in which we are setting different solution sets, considering different geoclusters all around Europe. And then another important point is we would like to understand the behavior, how the behavior of users affect the overall balance, and how we can improve the building use and then improve the indoor environmental quality as well as the energy balance. We would like to consider not only the energy benefit of a positive energy building, but also what we call it co-benefits, and what we are calling now during the project co-impacts related to as I said, a better indoor environment or a more controllable indoor environment, as well as a lower impact from environmental and social point of view due to the building. And then, I mean, we have 4 demonstrators, and we would like also to suggest possible inputs for the policies, as we are doing today with an introduction to the definition of positive energy buildings. So our pillars are to consider the cultural perspective of the possible, let's say, building users, as well as all the other players around the design, the construction, and the maintenance of a positive energy building. So the user is at the center of the design process, and the choice of the technology solutions are, as I wrote in the slide, quite agnostic. That means that we don't have a specific, let's say, technology as a sort of mass that should be used, but we would like to shape the set of solutions, considering, as I said, the specific peculiarities of the context. And of course, we would like also to promote sort of cost optimality, so sort of viable, real and actual viable investment. These are our 4 demo cases. So multifamily buildings in France, Italy, Germany, and in Norway. So different climates and different contexts. There are both, let's say, social housing and private housing. The partnership is quite heterogeneous. So with research center as well as industry partners providing technologies, the owners, and sort of a technical advisor to support the development of the positive energy building concept in the 4 demo cases. We are trying to answer the impact as requested by the call, and so to achieve the targets and try to define possible replication scenarios. So not only working on our demo cases, but also having a larger view. These are our 9 specific results. So a platform where it's possible to analyze and define the context for the development of the design. And so 4 key technologies, as I call it: house management system, a smart hybrid ventilation through an active window, the use of ceiling fan for air movement. This is quite important to reduce the cooling need. A decentralized packed heat pump system, integrating both ventilation and heating and cooling system. This estimation of the co-benefits or co-impacts as a sort of, let's say, approach in order to estimate this as a real estate value for the building. The solution sets, as I mentioned, so sort of inspirational set of solutions to start a design process that has to be tailored to the specific context. Then a way to visualize the result of simulation, so a tentative to standardize also this part in order to present in the standard way the result of the simulation, and then the policy recommendation, as I said. And here, I mean, it's the first step of this policy recommendation related to the positive energy building definition. It's a quite complex interaction among modeling, technology development, and implementation, practical implementation of the demo, design, construction, and maintenance of the demos. And yeah, that's it. A very short input on our Culture Ready project. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Roberto. And now, as Andreas still has a little bit technical problems, I would ask Nikki to continue with your presentation about Synikia.
Thank you, Mia. Let me just share my screen. I guess you can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, good morning. My name is Nikki Gaidani. I'm Associate Professor at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and I'm leading Synikia project. And I'm going to give you a brief overview within the next 5 minutes. The name Synikia comes from a Greek word which means neighborhood. In addition, Syn stands for plus, Ikia stands for homes. So we are focusing on sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. The Synikia consortium comprises 13 partners and from 7 countries and brings together all required expertise. So we have partners from Norway, Denmark, Spain, Belgium, Hungary, Austria, and the Netherlands. In addition, 4 real-life plus energy demo neighborhoods tailored to 4 different climatic zones will be developed, analyzed, optimized, and monitored within the duration of the project, which is 54 months. Our mission in Synikia is to increase the share of sustainable neighborhoods with a surplus, renewable energy in different contexts, climates, and market. And we will achieve this by unraveling 5 main focus areas. This is what we call our 5 Ds. So it's about decentralization, neighborhoods as flexibility providers that enable more renewable energy sources to enter the grid and allow for flexible management. It's about democracy, engaged and empowered and conscious users. It's about decarbonization, climate neutral, highly energy efficient neighborhoods. It's design, integrated design, architectural and spatial design, and digitalization. We are dealing with big data-based neighborhoods and smart networks that provide a well-managed housing for the citizens. And we have also 5 main strategies, the 5 S. Save energy, reducing the energy consumption by using solutions on total life cycle cost analysis, facilitating peak saving through load shifting, control, and storage. It's also about sharing resources, energy infrastructure, and common spaces with the neighbors. We want to make the neighborhood sign to ensure high quality architecture, good indoor and outdoor environments, and solutions that make the occupants and the community proud of their neighborhood. And finally, it's about scaling up, benefiting from large-scale effects of the neighborhoods to scale and replicate at the European level. A key challenge is to significantly increase the overall energy efficiency, energy flexibility, and climate resilience of neighborhoods. And so our implementation plan is actually aligned to the set plan. It's about optimization of these 3 functions. The Synikia definition of sustainable plus energy neighborhood follows a similar procedure as described for buildings, but the geographical boundary is expanded to the entire site of the neighborhood. The balance is calculated taking into account all building operational energies, space and domestic hot water heating, space cooling, ventilation, and fixed lighting, but excluding household appliances, the plug loads. The Synergia concepts relies on the premise that the cost reduction can only be achieved by an integrated approach, taking into account the building and the neighborhood level, the energy efficiency, flexibility, good architectural and spatial quality, as well as user behavior and well-being. To demonstrate the functionality of the Plus Energy neighborhood concept, we are currently developing 4 real-life sustainable Plus Energy neighborhoods. In Norway, the demo project is a new development in Oslo, and in the Netherlands, the demo case is located in Uden, and this is a typical mid-sized town in the Netherlands representing a marine climate. The Spanish demo case is a new development in the suburbs of Barcelona, representing a typical Mediterranean climate. And finally, the 4th case, the Austrian demo, is a new build and renovation project located in Salzburg, representing a continental climate. So if you want to know more about Synergia, you can visit our website, you can register to our newsletter, and you can also join Synergia's community, or you can even write an email to us, and you will get more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. I see that Andreas has joined us in the meeting, but oh no, now he disappeared again. He had some problems with the computer, and he changed it and managed to get into the meeting, but now he has disappeared again. So maybe it's best that we just continue, and I will try my best to present Access project, although I'm not very well prepared for that yet. As a background, I just started as a technical coordinator in this project, but let's go for the presentation. I do know the project because I've been involved in there.
Yeah, he's there. Hello, can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah,
welcome, Andreas.
we can hear you.
Yes, I was just...
Sorry, we had technical issues and now I'm here. Welcome. I'm the project coordinator of Access and happy to present the project. I'm just in time.
Yes, I was just about to start with that, but please
Yes.
go ahead.
Are you sharing screen or should I share screen?
You can share if you have your presentation open.
One moment. One second. Can you see my screen?
No.
No, at the moment.
Okay, then 1 second. 1 moment.
Hi, everybody. It's Zia. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to share my screen and it doesn't allow me to press the button.
Okay, there's a monitor icon with a red diagonal line. Choose entire screen. And then when you get that, you'll open your slides and put them in presenter mode.
1 second. Can you see my screen now?
No.
Andreas, maybe I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, share your screen, Mia, sorry.
Good, Mia. And if you put it in presenter mode,
Now it should be. Okay.
Mia, if you have to share your entire screen. When it asks you which part of your screen you want to share the entire screen, not a window or a tab. And then you go to presenter mode.
It doesn't allow me to share the entire screen.
And this happened to me also. But let's start as it is. It worked yesterday. Don't know why. Mia, show again the slides and we present now.
Yeah.
So I'm the coordinator of Access and Mia is the technical coordinator. Access started 2019. Next slide. We have 4 demos in 4 climate zones. In Belgium, we have more conventional technologies. We have PV, PVT, ground source heat pump and wind on a social housing complex of 68 apartments. And the aim is to share flexibilities and also sell flexibilities on the market to create an energy community. The wind on the roof will allow to make the complex plus energy over the time frame of a year. In Spain, we have PV and storage. I don't think that the technologies planned will allow to have a plus energy district or even building. Let's see. In Austria, we have a multifunctional facade that can produce electricity, heating, cooling, but also on the area we have hydro, and this helps a lot to make it a positive energy district. But with an Access, we focus on the building level. And finally, in Finland, we have the most experimental demo, an 800-meter borehole for storing heat in the winter times. So a seasonal storage fed by PVT. And all demos are aimed to interact with the grid and, importantly, with the consumers. Next slide. So these are the 5 objectives. I don't want to make it too boring, but of course, the same is for Cultural E and Synekia, new materials, technologies. It was the same call. Optimize the interplay of local generation, storage, consumption. Demonstrate PEPs in different climate zones. Strongly involve users. We have co-production workshops in the demo sites and other ways to engage and involve the users. Replication, exploitation. We would like to understand what are the factors that will enable a future market rollout. And one aim of today's workshop is also to discuss PEP definitions, because the greenhouse gas emission target has been raised. PEPs and PETs are gaining much more policy traction, attention, and we see there's a lack of definition, a lack of technical concepts, and Access wants to contribute here with our insights. Next slide. Yeah, on the technology side, we planned the PVT balcony. It didn't really work out in Finland due to fire restrictions. I mentioned already the deep borehole and multi-source heat pumps development, high COP district heating water system, electrical and thermal flexibility at a substation in the Belgian demo, where we pool flexibilities from residential boilers. And in Graz, you see on the right side below the Graz demo building, a multifunctional facade. But of course, to enable optimizing buildings and to a certain degree also the district level, you need suitable software. So we have advanced forecasting components, flexibility analysis that also tries to understand users' flexibility profiles while preserving the comfort zones of the users, optimal control strategies, new blockchain trading mechanisms, but also virtual creation of energy communities via mobile apps, virtual governance mechanisms. Next slide. I think this was already the short intro into the Access project. I don't want to take too much time because we should move on discussing definitions. And the discussion of PEP definition was a key element in the first work package of Access that has been completed. It was led by Mia. And I think we have very interesting findings of this first Access work package that we would like to share today.
Yes, in fact, this next presentation is about the discussion that we have had among these three projects, and that's going to be presented by Christian. Christian, do you want to share your own screen? Yes?
Yeah, let's try.
Share the screen and put the slides on reading mode. That would seem to be the best option.
Can you see? Can you see it?
Yes. Now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So here, this presentation is about, as mentioned, to present our common work done in last 6 months, and we will show you common points and discussion points, specifically around the PEP definition. Okay, so the aim of the cooperation that we had and that we still have for the next months is to, due to the fact that we need a shared definition for these buildings, we need to define them better to enable the design, the development, the assessment, and to manage documentation around these kind of buildings. This done across different contexts, climates, cultures, and markets, as all these three projects are doing, partly differently, but many things are in common. So what this definition needs to look at is cost effectiveness, just and socially balanced and fair transition, considering different national conditions as starting point. So the aim here is to present this joint framework for the definition of positive energy buildings that was obtained by these three projects, Culturally, Access, and Synekia. So the cooperation was structured into three main parts. We first outlined the relevant aspects that needed to be considered to get to a definition. Then how these specific aspects have been addressed into each of the project, contributing to the discussion paper that we will produce next. And finally, we could get to summarizing what is common and to propose a definition, but more than that, some recommendation to the policymakers. So among the relevant aspects, there are for sure the physical boundaries of the system that need to be considered for into the energy balance calculation. So what falls inside that energy balance, and what is not to be considered as a contribution because falls outside the boundaries. Then which items actually contribute to the balance, and metrics that express how this balance is obtained, basically. Then which type of energy use should be accounted for and which other cannot be accounted for, is not worth to do, and then also the role of embodied energy in that. Finally, the dynamic matching and all aspects related to renewable energy sources. Then, of course, we have different points of view, and the second part was aimed to define how these aspects are addressed, and in the discussion paper that we are producing, all these aspects are outlined shortly. So what we could get, for example, are some differences in the definition of the system boundaries, like what to consider as which energy uses fall inside the boundary, where the renewable energy is produced, where it is stored, and which energy efficiency measures are to be considered. Also, the time dimension has different point of view, and that this different point of view is very important. It is the time over which the building and the systems are balanced, and can get to different considerations as well, and different conclusions. Also, the energy use to be included into the balance is to make the total energy demand, as for example heating, cooling, domestic hot water, ventilation, lighting, and so on, has been discussed, and we have different point of views, but many things and aspects are in common again. So there are also other relevant topics that should that in all our visions complete the concept and the definition of positive energy buildings. For example, the co-benefits like comfort and indoor environmental quality must be considered, and also the socio-cultural context has a major role. The policies have a great impact to consider, and furthermore, the user attitudes, behavior, and expectation toward the energy demand is key to reaching the positive energy balance target. And also the location of building, as we are all facing these 4 big areas across Europe. The location of the building is very important to take care. So in practice, we focused on some key points, as mentioned, the physical boundaries, the type of energy used considered in the balance, the type of balance and metrics, some KPIs related to energy, environment, and also to social, economic, and well-being aspects, and also the user behavior. So this was to identify aspects shared among the project approach. And so as the first point is what is very important in our opinion. So the boundaries basically indicates what which is the limit, let's say the footprint, and every energy use that is inside and is of the correct type should be taken into account into the energy balance. So it's the boundaries in general could be based on different categories, like the single family house instead of a multi-family house, or office, educational building, and so on, or by, for example, building form factor, or by scale, ranging from the single apartment to the building, then to the neighborhood or the district. So there are different way to meaning of boundaries. We focus on the physical boundaries And it could be the single building or a cluster of a small cluster of buildings. Also, the production of energy from renewable energy sources can be on site and off site, but up to some extent. For example, we think that on-site production should be favored, and off-site could be included just in some particular cases that we can discuss later on. Yeah, then we can. What we did was to talk about and discuss about the conditions for extending the physical boundaries, and then we define that, for example, if you have a neighboring lot with a straight connection to the building energy system, and which is under in the production, for example, is under direct control from the PEP, it can be considered as in the same way as an on-site energy production, for example. So what is important to mention here is anyway that when we define the boundaries, we will strongly influence the balance. So it is very important to define correct boundaries. For example, we found that the single apartment was too small scale, even if it was a good point of view for the user, and the user could effectively understand what happens inside a single apartment. It is somehow reducing a bit the benefit coming from a positive energy building if we consider only the boundaries at apartment scale. So this is why we define that at the building level. Then there are also different typologies for the buildings, like not only residentials, but offices, educational, public buildings that have different condition of use, different door temperatures, set point, different expected air quality, different use for lighting, domestic hot water, and so on, different profiles than residential buildings. So this is also important to understand and to check when we define targets for the positive energy building. Another point in our discussion was, for example, that a building which is placed in a rural area could have a higher potential to produce energy locally, but not while the same building placed in an urban area may have a lot of difficulties to find enough space around. So
sorry, Christian, I'll need to ask you to speed up a little bit because
okay.
We want to
right.
leave time for the discussion also. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so next step was the balance contribution type and period. So we defined that there are some energy uses for that can be considered. Basically, heating, cooling, ventilation, domestic hot water, lighting, and some auxiliary energy uses are included. The period of balance, which makes most sense, is the annual balance, except when we consider the sustainability aspect and the body energy, and that in that case it makes sense to go for the lifespan. The type of balance we focus on is the export versus delivered energy, and computed on hourly basis. So about the matrix performance indicators, we found that primary energy, final energy, equivalent CO2 emissions are the main metrics. Then there are other indicators for energy and environmental aspects. economic, social, and or environmental quality, smartness, and energy flexibility. Dynamic matching has also its own indicators, but what we found is it is important to find a good matching in any way from the demand and supply side. And then again, the embodied energy to be included into the life cycle assessment. About the role of users, it's very important to understand the role of users. It is done partially so far. So what is common point of view is that user behavior strongly affects energy uses, and the quality of user interfaces and the communication to the user is related to the building energy performance. So basically, if the user cannot understand or use inappropriately the technical building system, is most probably will introduce a performance gap, will produce a performance gap, which is against the positive energy building goals and targets. And plug loads and electric vehicle charging could make a big difference, but so far they are not easy to identify correctly, to quantify in some cases. So the conclusions are the 3 projects produced this definition, which is only part of the 3 projects specific definition, as energy web is an energy efficient building that produces more energy from renewable energy sources than it consumes over a time span of 1 year. And the main difference that we found is if we consider or not some facilities for renewable energy system, renewable energy source production to be within or outside the boundary. Next steps will be to explore role of users and to understand the trade-off between investment cost, operational costs, and benefits. I just take 2 minutes for the recommendation. The first recommendation is residential buildings have great potential to reach positive energy building targets, while offices and educational building may achieve this target up to some extent. Then we must pay attention to affordability, cost optimality, and building value, and use that to motivate stakeholders. Also, environmental benefits must be considered. And beside the energy balance, it is important to adhere to the other KPIs. So there is a multifaceted concept around the positive energy building. The procedure to evaluate the energy balance should be accurate and robust, and then the positive energy building status after construction must be checked, for example, by this protocol, IPMVP. Then the technologies for positive energy building should be simple and also easy to maintain, and the maintenance costs should be considered in the life cycle cost assessment. Embodied energy and carbon should be included into the LCA, and to favor also, we should favor also circular economy and the residual value. Incentives on surplus of energy or on energy communities are for sure welcome, and we should favor self-consumption and energy flexibility. European regulation may be more impacting than a directive, leading to new building standards. This would help a lot, in our opinion. And then finally, the promotion of innovative investment schemes and standard performance-driven procurement schemes like EPC or PPP are welcome for both public and private buildings. So Sorry for being 3 minutes late, but thank you for attention.
Thank you, Christian. I think we'll now move forward to the Commission's point of view to energy positive buildings. And then after that, we will include the others in the discussion. So please, Dimitrios, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning from my side to everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's coming quite timely, I would say, because as you may know, we are also in the phase that we are revising the EPBD, the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. So in a way, it's in one way, it's very useful that we have this meeting now, this workshop now. We have the chance to discuss about it, because this is one of the most important elements, I would say, of the new, of our proposals to revise the EPBD. It's also a little bit a pity, because we're now only the phase that we are also brainstorming, and we're trying to develop our impact assessment, and the consultation phase has just been concluded. So in fact, I can also share some thoughts, but nothing has been stabilized so far. I will also try to present my screen, if I will manage. Okay, share. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
So very quickly, I will not present everything because it's too much, and I will only try to focus in what it is important. But I have kept some extra slides for, let's say, the matter of completeness. So the building sector in Europe is very important. It's very high in the political agenda, and we can tell that recently it's becoming more and more evident and more and more popular, and exactly because everybody now acknowledges that it's not the wider and broader scope of the building sector, but also it's how important it is for Europe to have a decarbonized building stock in order to achieve the environmental and energy goals. For example, we know that it's one of the, if not the first, one of the biggest energy consumers in general, with 40% around, or 36% of greenhouse gas emissions, and so on. While our existing building stock is quite old, and the renovation rates are very low at the moment, around to 1%. There is a legislative framework which is actually very comprehensive, I would say, with the Energy Performance of Building Directive, the Energy Efficiency Directive, which is like an umbrella framework directive, if you want. And then we also have the energy labeling and the eco-design legislation for standards, mostly for products. And finally, of course, the Renewable Energy Directive. All this together is the main legislative framework we have in place. And I don't want to stay much in the energy performance, the EPBD, presenting the EPBD. We all know about it, about the nearly zero energy buildings and the EPCs and everything. And also building on the flexibility to member states to reflect the national conditions in the definitions, for example, of nearly zero energy buildings. And I mention this because now we have to see the future of the building sector. And then we had evaluation, and still there was room for improvement, and that's why we had the revision in 2018. But that was very targeted, building mostly on the long-term renovation strategies, e-mobility, smart readiness indicator, and the promotion of bugs. So it was very targeted. Until the European Green Deal came, and it really recognized the importance of buildings, and asking therefore for the renovation wave that we all know about, and also building on a new climate target plan for 2030, asking for more ambitions and specific elements for buildings, for example, that they have to reduce emissions by 60% and increase the renovation rate, start banning fossil fuels, increasing renewable component, and so on. So there is a whole new territory now, there is a whole new agenda, and buildings are very high to it. There was the impact assessment, recognized having different scenarios explored, from fuel suites and renovation rates. There are many, many results. And yes, last year we published the renovation wave, asking to at least double the annual renovation rate and make deeper energy renovations and quality renovations, as we want to call them now, and trying to renovate at least 35 billion buildings in Europe by 2030. But also, as mentioned before, also by previous speakers, that more elements have to be considered, like the energy efficiency first, affordability, energy poverty, decarbonization, life cycle thinking, indoor environmental quality, and also high health and other standards. So aesthetics as well, of course, and always smart solutions. All these came with specific actions that have to be implemented through a very comprehensive action plan that has been also being published together with the communication. I don't want to stick on that. And also focus areas were the energy performing and worst performing buildings, public buildings, decarbonization of heating and cooling. And I'm just also emphasizing here to the new European Bauhaus, which is becoming more and more popular lately. We have seen even the president of the European Commission mentioned the European Bauhaus in her speech about the state of the energy union. So there is a new, let's say, I have just wanted to very quickly present to you the new environment that we're working. We have a new mandate. It's not the same as it was like 5 years ago when we were revising the EPPD. Now there is clearly a new agenda, a new political scheme that we have to follow and to implement. So that's why it was also decided to revise the energy performance of buildings directive as part of the Fit for 55 package, which is the package actually delivering the climate target plan, which delivers the European Green Deal. So very quickly, unfortunately, as I said, I cannot share much at the moment because our deadline to propose to publish and to communicate our proposals is the end of the 14th of December 2021. So this is really the time that we are also working together. We already have a public consultation, but also workshops to support our proposals. And now it's the phase that we also discuss with stakeholders as well, but internally mostly, receiving position papers, but also, these workshops are also very important for us to, because we can see what is happening on the ground and how other organizations and projects look into it. Anyway, the most important elements that we will propose is the introduction of minimum energy performance standards. So, for example, when a building is to be rented or sold, a standard, for example, an EPC class has to be respected. We want to introduce a deep renovation standard. So, on top of the major renovation, we now want to have a definition for the deep renovation standards. Strengthen the concept of building renovation passport, which we see that there is pretty much appetite from member states to introduce it. Strengthening the energy performance certificates and maybe towards some to improve quality and comparability. It's the smart readiness indicator and the electromobility aspects that needs to be strengthened. And now I left it for us last point. It's the decarbonization of the buildings. So moving from nearly zero energy buildings, NZEBs, to net zero emissions, zero emission buildings. We're exploring different definitions here, as you also propose a positive energy building. So I think now the trend is to move towards decarbonization matrix, towards environmental metrics, and exactly to combine the energy metrics with environmental ones. So very quickly, a couple of points to mention with regards to zero emission buildings, or to the future definition of the buildings. It's of course, as you refer to most of the elements that we need to consider, like the boundaries or the role of renewables and all of this. And yes, indeed, we have tried to explore also different definitions and studies through our impact assessment. We also try to build on the current status of NZEBs, the nearly zero energy buildings. We analyze what is implemented by member states, where their ambition level stands, and so on. We also see that for the renewables directive, there is now an horizontal European level target of 49% renewables share in the building sector in general. So we play and we consider with all these elements together with relevant studies to see if we can, how can we improve a definition towards zero emission buildings with maybe specific benchmarks. We really try to see what is there, and if we can come up with such, more specific elements, like explaining the role of renewables energy, on-site or off-site, and then what is the role of PEFs. All these are very, very sensitive issues for member states, and we know that it won't be easy to. We always need to respect the subsidiarity principle, and we're always trying to find the best balance between flexibility, but also the need to have some extra comparability, some let's say, if you want, harmonization. For example, with nearly zero energy buildings, the definition was so flexible that now it is very difficult if you want to compare the situation in member states, and it is also very difficult if you want to monitor the progress at the European level. So indeed, now we're also strengthening the long-term renovation strategies, and we really try to make the EPP, the long-term strategies, but also the EPPD deliver. So if we want to monitor the achievement of specific targets, then we need to have to ask for some more harmonized indicators, let's say. And of course, it's always the embodied energy that we also need to introduce, and we want to check to also have complementarity with other policies. For example, we know the levels. It's a tool. It's similar to EPCs, but this is about the sustainability of a building. Energy performance is just one part of it, so we also want to see how to best use this new tool, the levels, and also which also incorporates the life cycle analysis and life cycle emissions and other elements. And indeed, all this has to come together with the framework to calculate the energy performance. We also need to see the market readiness and also, for example, re-examine the role of the cost optimality here. Okay, I think that what I'm trying to say is that we're moving to an era that, first of all, let's say 10 years ago, we have introduced the nearly zero energy buildings concept, so that we applied in 2021, and it's only now that we see in practice what is happening. Similarly, we want to already motivate the market so that in 2030 they are ready for zero emissions buildings. I think we're in a much better position now. The starting point is different. Everything is better. The market, politicians, citizens are closer. They can understand the role of sustainable building, of a high energy performance building. But all these have to be put together and so that actually it's doable, workable in 10 years. But let's see, we still have time for this, and I mean, the negotiations have not even yet started. It's going to be an interesting year, I think, the next one, discussing with both the Parliament and the Council, that we know that they are both in favor, but the details will also play a crucial role. So I think that's all from my side.
Thank you very much. I think that is the next step in the agenda will actually be quite interesting for you also, because then you will hear the thoughts of also other stakeholders, and not just these 3 projects. You have received our ideas as a position paper, what we sent, and which Christian presented, and the next. It seems that the positive energy buildings can really contribute to these targets and strategies, because due to the renovation slow renovation rate, it's important that the positive energy buildings provide the surrounding buildings with renewable energy, which is the idea with positive energy buildings. But let's not use too much time for that. That is a very good background for the discussion today. What the Commission is looking at and where we are going on the European level. And now, in the next step, we would really like to get the thoughts of the audience. We have divided this discussion into 3 different sections, so we are a little bit behind the schedule. So I will start with my discussion on the discussion that I will be leading about the boundaries, and I will try to speed up a bit with that. So I will share my slides, but I will quite quickly move actually to the poll questions. Yeah, that is mine. No, sorry. Yeah. So this section is about the boundaries and balance. As Christian already presented this quite in depth, so I'm not going to go very deep in this. Just to remind a bit what we are talking about in this section. So it's very important to discuss about the boundaries and balance, because they affect the possibilities of different types of buildings to reach the positive energy building status. As Christian mentioned, if we look at as examples the urban or rural buildings, there are different opportunities for placing the renewable energy facilities. In rural environment, you can probably find a bit more place for the facilities, and also maybe more options for the renewables. And also the type of buildings affects the boundaries and the balance, or different possibilities for reaching the PEP stages. For instance, if it's an office or school or residential building, because they have different requirements for the energy, and then also they have different daily and seasonal use profiles. So that is base for why we should be looking at the boundaries and balance. The discussions in the group of these 3 projects was related to in physical boundaries. We were discussing quite deeply where to set the boundary. Should it be strictly on the lot, or can it be extended to the neighborhood? For example, what if in the neighboring lot there's a good room for the renewable energy, but then you need to take that through the grid? Could that be included in the energy production balance of the positive energy building? And what if there are several buildings on the same lot, as in the Finnish case? We have one building that is included as demo in the Access project, but there are 2 buildings on the same lot and sharing the same renewable energy facility. These are, now I'm just giving you food for thought. So these are questions that we have been discussing in these projects. And then about the energy uses, that was also some subject that we deeply discussed. And there are different standards saying what should be included in the energy balance. The ISO standard says that heating, cooling, ventilation, humidification, dehumidification, domestic hot water and lighting should be included in energy performance. For buildings directive, it says that heating, domestic hot water, air conditioning, ventilation should be included, and for non-residential buildings, also lighting. Then, what about the user-related energy use, like the plug loads or electric vehicle charging? Should that be included? And how does that affect the grid interaction, for instance? And if there are the EV charging included, that will increase the need for the energy in that building and things like that. And then also this embodied energy was also mentioned in several presentations and also by Dimitrios. Then should this be included in the balance when we are looking at the PEB energy balance? I'm not giving answers. I'm just asking questions, and these are for the these are for the starting of the discussion. And actually, I have a couple of questions for the poll, and I would maybe even start with those because. Just to like give start for the discussion. Now I'm giving you some questions on the polls. On the right side of the screen, you can see the polls, and now I opened one poll asking if the renewable energy sources production from a renewable energy facility owned by the building owner or user, but which is situated far from the building, should it be included in the building's energy production? And there are three options that you can choose. So please go ahead and give your vote.
There's a poll. I don't know if all of you know. Yeah, it seems that it's happening. Sorry.
Sorry? Yeah. For instance, for the three projects, we were discussing that it would be good if we just include, for instance, that kind of production that is on the neighboring lot. If you can somehow assess that, if you have if it's included in the measurements of the building, so then it would be good to have that. And it seems that many of the voters, of many of you, think that it could be included in some situations. There are people also who think that it should not be included in the PEB balance. And then I'm opening another poll for you. I'll just go through the polls, and then I will wish some comments from your side, from the audience. Then I'm asking if the plug loads should be included in the energy use of the building. In case of an apartment building where the inhabitants pay for their own energy. This was discussed because in many countries it's not yet possible to measure this energy. In Finland, that is possible because we have very wide coverage of smart metering, but it's not evident in every country. But it seems that many of us think that it should be included, even if it's a bit difficult to measure. And then I have one more question about the embodied energy. How should it be treated? Should it be included in the balance? Should it be treated as separate requirement, as, for instance, as a key performance indicator? Or should it not be addressed at all in the definition? Please give your thoughts. We seem to be in quite good agreement on this because many of us think that it should be treated as a separate requirement. Now I would ask actually Andreas. Sorry. I would ask people in the audience to give their ideas. If someone wants to express some ideas about this balance ideas, the specific ideas of the embodied energy or plug loads or anything else. I think it works so that if you ask for permission to share your audio and video, it's on the upper right side of the screen. A red button there. Or then you can also write in the chat if you want to say something. Judith, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mia, for inviting me as advisory board member of Access Project. I just wanted to mention that many of the discussions going around here are very, very similar to the ones that are currently going on positive energy districts. And in my opinion, but maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned, but I grew up with the broad definition of sustainability. It's not only about here and now, it's also about elsewhere and later. So I think the systems perspective is very important. And I would really recommend to link up to the people working in the cost action, PET EUnet, in the IEA Annex 83, and in the ERA Joint Program Smart Cities and the Set Plan 3.2 on trying to shape a good definition of what is PET, what is a PET, what constitutes PET, and what is it, what are the aspects that are relevant, because it's also about co-benefits, co-benefits that are very important for the users to engage them. And it's also about behavior, and it's also about system integration with your energy network operators and energy providers. So I would plead for a rather broad putting things together and also opening up this discussion between positive energy block and positive energy districts. I think Nikki already hinted at it in one of her comments. So that would be my comment here to because I think there is more in common than what is separating the two groups. Thank you.
If I may comment on this was also my observation, because I'm also involved in the positive energy district definition community, and I think both communities could strongly benefit, because if we say positive energy buildings also include other buildings, classes of buildings, there's no clear boundary anymore between the building and the district. But buildings have specific functions for districts. So I think both strands of discussion could become a very synergetic definition, where the district benefits from certain characteristics of buildings, and buildings have new opportunities on the district. So I think these strands need to be merged into an integrated definition.
Yeah, I very much agree, and I think it would be very beneficial for both definition groups, I would say, both on the district that are struggling with maybe the more detailed information on the buildings and the building blocks, and also from the positive energy block side, because you are then taking this more holistic approach, which,
Yes.
as we heard from the European Commission, also a key tenet for the upcoming policies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's an important point of view, and that's actually something that we have also proceeded towards, that the boundaries should rather be around the district than the building.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's a good message to give to maybe to the Commission too. Yeah. I would like to give more room to the audience, but I would I would suggest now that we move to the next like section, and then continue the discussion after that. So next we have Jaume, who's giving the presentation about the grid aspects.
Thank you, Mia, for the introduction. I'm Jaume Salom. I'm working in Senikia project and also as part of in our institution, which is IREC, the Catalonia Institute for Energy Research. Then I will share my screen and introduce a little bit the topic very briefly, because we are running a little bit late of our schedule. I think you are able to see my screen now. Then obviously, when we talk about positive energy buildings, are buildings that actually will exchange energy with the grid. The grid, as we talk, is what we talk about net zero energy building. Also, net stands for also the grid. Then what we will have, in some cases, we will have generation which is very close to the load, but as a part of the time, or most of the time, we will import energy from the grid. This is the delivered energy, and we will export in other part of the year. Yeah. That is that we will have. That's this when we talk about enhancing flexibility in this type of buildings, and we have also they can be seen as flexible energy assets. We talk also to modify this relationship also with the grid, trying to use the energy when it's more favorable, and if in the case that we have energy renewables on site, use as much as energy as possible at the same time when the energy is demanded by the users. Then also when we talk about also the remaining exchange of the energy that can be shared with other buildings or exported at the end with the grid. But we are when we talk about neighborhoods, also there is the possibility to share with other buildings. And the other aspects is about the dynamic matching indicators requires early up or sub-hourly calculations. We cannot characterize well these dynamics in monthly calculations or annual calculations. That well, at the end, dynamic matching indicators covers load matching, grid integration, and energy flexibility. And at the end, actual interaction needs all the energy uses. Yeah. At the end, because that is the real interaction that we will have with the grids or with other buildings. Then, as Mia's did also, I have a potential, a list of potential questions to you, in order, well, to know also your opinion and to maybe have the opportunity to make some observation from your side. Then, if you go to the poll section, I will ask 3 questions. Yeah. The first question I will ask is, I make visible to you now, is how important is to characterize dynamic matching. Yeah, if you think, well, at the end, the most important is the annual balance and the annual emissions balance, and it is, well, it's not so important, and energy grid will cope with that, or as important of the annual balance. Then maybe you can make your votes now, and we will see what people is his opinion of the persons. Yeah, I think we are some votes already now. Yeah. Okay, it seems that the majority of the people think that is as important of the annual balance, but also we have some of them that maybe is not so much important. Yeah, then maybe we can move to the other pools, but maybe it is good to know the opinion of that of that person that thinks there is no so important afterwards in the discussion. Then we will move to a second question to you. Okay, that's is more related also. That's very related. What one of the Mia's questions is: should dynamic matching be calculated for all uses, including appliances, or no, only for the uses that are being considered in the annual balance? Then also you can make your votes. I expect that if people voted before that all uses should be included in the energy balance, also we expect that also for the dynamic matching it is needed to include all the balances. Okay. Thank you very much for your answers. I think no surprises here in these answers. I'm very coherent with the ones that done by the answers of the question of Mia. And the last question is about how we can compute these indicators, the dynamic matching factors. At the end, we are interested also to know which is the maximum power, which is delivered or exported in our buildings, that will help also to design the size of the grids and have an impact also on the design of the not only the building but also in the design of the surrounding supply infrastructures, meaning the electrical grid or the district heating and cooling network. Which time span should be used to calculate this maximum power? We're still on the typical 1 hour, or we need more supported resolution than 15 minutes or 5 minutes, or even less than 5 minutes. It will be helpful to know also which are your opinion on that. This is very related also with this smart metering, in the European market. Some countries have smart meters measuring at 15 minutes, and some others provide that of 1 hour time span, but also the most of the answers are divided in the two first options between 1 hour or 15 minutes, with the majority having the opinion to keep in our resolution that is if enough to calculate maximum power and these matching indicators. Okay, thank you very much. This is the answers, the questions I have to you in order to know your opinion. I don't know, maybe you have some minutes in order to to give the opportunity to some persons to make an intervention on that part.
Yes, I think it would be good if someone wants to, if someone has the urge to say something about this grid interaction point, that would be
probably for me. It was interesting to know the ones that makes the votes that there is no necessary or not very important to compute this dynamic matching factor or to take this into account if they want, obviously.
okay. If not, then we can just leave that to the last discussion. There's still a little bit time. Actually, we are a bit over time now, but we don't want to leave out the discussion about the social aspects, which Ivan will now present. Thank you, Jaume, for your...
Okay, thank you very much. I will stop sharing the screen.
Thanks, Mia. Thanks, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I hope you can see it now in full screen mode. So my name is Ivan Luque Segura. I'm a research fellow at RMIT Europe, which is the European hub for RMIT University from Melbourne, which we are based in Barcelona, Spain. I'm happy to be presenting the social aspects which has been considered within the definition, the draft work we are developing currently among the three sister projects, and we have agreed or we have discussed with the following statements and bullet points that I'm gonna comment right now, and after this I will launch some questions as Mia and Jaume has been also doing in the poll tool. So we can initiate the discussion on the social aspects for getting included in the definition by considering that users' energy demand and everyday practices determine the overall energy balance of the building. This is something that all of us we agreed, and inform and engage positive energy users can significantly contribute to limit demand within the building energy production profiles, hence becoming an enabling achieving PEV performance targets through becoming a key element. A yearly positive energy balance may imply significant attention to household practices under varied and specific sociocultural, climatic and boundary conditions, and those influence occupant perceptions and attitudes towards the indoor environmental quality. We also remark the importance of the concept of household agency and practice, which is limited and is subject to societal expectations, such as cleanliness, comfort, and convenience, that are constantly changing and inevitably ramping up. Then plus energy building design should integrate this idea of agency and practice along with users' diversity and thus the differentiated sets of baseline conditions in accordance with a specific profile, such as the images that I'm showing here in the right side of this slide. Because individual household, however committed, cannot remain unaffected by the wider societal trends. We need to analyze and study them and integrate into the design. Then plus energy building should also incorporate the energy flexible assets that this may bring into the performance, such as alteration of the standard context of the household or within a diverse building community with different behaviors and profiles. Also, the indoor environmental quality is a key aspect related to users' behavior, and how to integrate a good definition may be a challenge. So indoor environmental requirements are currently strictly defined based on ideal conditions that generally match with subjective sensation of neutrality, where user adaptation mechanisms are generally neglected, because building design usually is privileging static environments over transient ones. Then very tight and static indoor environments do not allow us to integrate transition and stimuli as part of the building design, and we are losing potentialities and drivers that can help us to meet the plus energy building targets. Then the design of buildings and systems often do not enhance the occupant personal control over the environment, which is another key element which could make a difference regarding how to integrate users within the performance. As conclusions, we can say that integrating user diversity into plus energy building definition is key, because users do not set out to use energy. Rather, they seek access to energy services. Then, contrary to the conventional approach, accounting for user practices, attitudes, and expectation on energy demand and indoor environmental quality will allow that integration, integrate a great range of cultural and social diversities into the plus energy building design, which is the scope of at European level to become a concept that is affordable, accessible to everyone. So I've prepared a series of slides that I'm gonna currently activate a series of questions that I'm gonna currently activate in the poll section, that trying to discuss on the framework of that these two first questions that I'm gonna read now, try to embrace. What are the main challenges that the building design will face toward the building decarbonization, and which are the main dependencies and available options to incorporate new methodologies, criteria, which may allow us to design successful positive energy buildings. Then my first question is in reference to how end users raise energy efficiency. How could PEB design conceptualize and react upon the energy trade-off in front of daily practices of comfort, cleanliness, and convenience basis? So how we can somehow go and transform the trends of users in terms of comfort and let's say unconscious consumption of energy. So the answers are I'm going to activate. Okay. You may see now this question in the poll, and there is some options that you can read there. You can apply to more than one, or you can just comment here together with all of us if you feel like. Most of the answers are selecting the second option, but also the first. I agree that both are key in order to define and support the design process, which is the integration of social sciences research in order to support the user's conceptualization and integration, and as well the user-centric design as a method for designing technologies and architectural criteria as well, and as well the human and computer interaction, which is also important to understand how new technologies are interacting with human behaviors. So next question I've been preparing for you is regarding the, I'm hiding it now, and is regarding the gap between the available methods tool that provide capabilities and also bring outcomes that can be included into the design process, and the gap between this and the required insight which make a plus energy building project successful. So as well, there is several options that you can be selecting. Most of the selection has selected the second option, which is existing tool do not allow the integration of specific user profiles. We know that standards and profiles somehow are predefined and configured before the software and tools can be implemented in a way that exploring different features and parameters not always is that easy, and the construction of that profiles are not an evident and direct outcome. Then if someone wants to comment on this, please. Next question that we have prepared is to what extent would the plus energy building design need to provide users personal control over the environment and systems? Here we all seems to be agree, or most of us, in the third answer, which is combining user-friendly solutions and personal control may lead to positive energy balance. The combination of these two concepts is key for a successful outcome. And the last question is, what role can user training and education play in successful plus energy buildings? And here we are having a majority that is thinking that the first answer, which is user training, is crucial for successful positive energy building, but it's somehow a tricky answer, which because the third one also is getting quite a lot of votes with user-friendly solutions without trainings. We know that the solution need to be user-friendly as well. But one thing should not potentially skip doing both. So training and user-friendly should be aligned. So thank you very much for your participation and your inputs to the poll, and hopefully you like the aspects that we have been incorporating into in the discussion paper we are preparing. And if you want to comment on any of them, please, or you have any advice, suggestion on how we could continue improving the integration of user and social aspect into the building design, will be welcome. You can just ask for participating in the right upper side of your screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. I think this user aspect is something that is beyond the zero energy concepts. They are not discussing that. They are just assuming that as a taken. So that's quite new aspect and deserves a lot of discussion, I think, And also, I think as a conclusion of this, the whole workshop, it seems that there is a lot of need for further discussion. But if some of the audience would like to say something, please ask for permission for audio video sharing. I don't know how much time we still have left because we are a bit over our time. But or you can also write in the chat. But anyway, thank you for answering the polls. That was a very interesting glimpse to the ideas that also the audience has. I don't see so much discussion. Or there has been some discussion in the earlier points already.
Yeah, I take the opportunity just to launch one more question, which without a target answers, just to hear your opinion on how could users' energy demand be accounted within the building design process and integrated as part of the plus energy building definition. Which is the path that you believe could be easier for integrating plug loads? For instance, I can make this question to Nikki or to any representative of Sinikia, since for instance they are not intending to integrate this within the district concept that they are also embedding into the definition.
I think maybe Jalma should respond to this question.
I think plug loads can be introduced with some generic profiles, and then, depending on the context, on the geographical context, and the geographical and also the socioeconomic aspects or the neighborhoods or characteristics of the building, can some generic profiles can be included to account with appliances uses, in order then that to consider then later on in the calculations. I don't know is that the answer that you are expecting more or less, but I don't know what's also the case of the other projects. How do you perform this?
I agree that not all cases potentially would be easier or evident that integrating the plug loads and all the energy uses carried out by users will be feasible. Also because of the complexity of getting the data and managing a huge volume of users accessing to a building. So no all typologies are easy to account for this. For the residential typology, potentially through all the monitoring systems, sensors, smart meterings, and so on, we can somehow learning by doing or doing through the user-centric approach, where we test and we improve somehow the configurations of the system through during the performance could be a way. So adjusting the initial profiles and conception expectations to what is currently happening once the building is occupied could be a way of forcing to integrate this and maybe giving a chance in a time span after the first occupancies to have that kind of results. So will be like a complementary KPI. Camus.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we just need to close this workshop now because we are quite a lot ahead of time. But it was interesting to hear a little bit, at least, the ideas of the Commission for this, and also to make a small query about the ideas from the other stakeholders.
Okay.
So thank you for joining, and we will be there. You can contact us through emails, and we will like to continue the discussion. At least we will in our advisory board and so on.
And I
Okay,
take the
thank you. Sorry.
just to mention that the Annex 83, I think, are running in the next weeks workshops working on the definition, so we could have the chance of joining forces as well in that workshop. Just look on the Annex 83 and I think website, and the information will be there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much also, and thank you all the attendees. It was a pleasure for me. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lola. Bye.